未来的智慧移动世界，除了车辆动力从燃油走向油电混合，再到电池动力，更在5G、AI、物联网不断革新的技术下，达到智慧驾驶，甚至是无人驾驶的阶段。5G 低延迟、高传输的特性，让自动驾驶成为汽车业最主要的运用场域。台湾汽车业挟着汽车零组件、科技业的制造实力，相关业者早已鸭子划水，逐步跨入自驾车领域，像是先进驾驶辅助系统中的车用影像、盲点侦测、车道偏移、停车辅助系统、车用 LED 等，都是发展人车之间相互串联的重点技术和趋势。接下来将由高通副总裁以及台湾区跟东南亚区总裁刘思泰先生，以高通在智慧联网的经验和技术，来分享未来发展的脉动。另一位是以色列新创 INNOVIZ Technologies 亚洲区副总裁 David Oberman， 来看新创团队如何以光学雷达的独门技术晋升国际大厂的 Tier 1供应商，以及迈向自驾车的未来路程。我们首先欢迎刘总裁。
大家好，我是高通副总裁及台湾以东南亚区总裁刘思泰。很感谢我一向非常尊敬的外贸协会 TITRA 和金周刊邀请我参加今天的智慧移动线上论坛。虽然因为疫情没办法跟大家面对面互动交流，但还是非常高兴能在线上与各位分享高通的联网汽车解决方案以技术思维，以及高通如何看待全球智慧汽车的发展。我们正快速地迈向一个更连结、更智慧的世界。5G 是智慧连结新未来的基础，能实现更具互动性和参与感的全新沉浸体验，同时还推动了产业的数位转型。在第一个 5G 商用网络推出短短2年后，5G 的动能就已经超出所有人的预期。在超过65个国家中，有160多家的 operators 已经推出商用化的 5G 服务，这远远超过了4G 商业化最初几年的成绩。令人惊讶的是，这些成长大部分出现在疫情期间。5G 生态系的韧性不言而喻。 不久的将来，5G 将实现连接数十亿个连线装置的愿景。这些装置传送出来的数据，不仅对未来全球经济至关重要，而且透过连接云端所传递的信息以负载的内容，将推动 AI 爆炸性的成长。AI 应用也将扩展到更多不同的领域。5G 覆盖与新应用将为整个产业创造庞大的机会，并加速发展。根据 IHS Markit 的数据显示，到2035年 5G 将创造超过13兆美元的商机，并带来超过2000万个工作机会。透过 5G， 行动科技将加速推动产业数位转型，并带动各个区域的经济成长。同时，高通在针对高效能、功耗平衡以及射频前端技术的投资和研发，将会帮助许多商业模式转型和发展。领域包括所有边缘装置，也涵盖无线网络、物联网以及专为 XR 打造的新一代运算平台等等。其中呢，最让产业期待的就是汽车的领域。高通预期2027年售出的所有车辆中，有接近3/4将内建蜂巢式联网能力，超越2015年时仅有的1/5。高通也预期先进驾驶辅助系统及 ADAS 将成为主流，而 ADAS 整合的中央运算、连接至云端、联网能力等，也将成为关键的技术。在这些令人惊艳的转变中，高通拥有独特的领导优势。我们为汽车产业中的多项领域带来了解决方案。在联网能力方面，高通带领产业过渡至 5G 即蜂巢式车联网。高通也提供了极具功耗效率的运算能力，以及专为数位座舱打造的 AI 技术。随着 ADAS 和自动驾驶技术持续发展，我们认为这将是颠覆汽车产业最大的演进和改变。高通可以提供所有所需技术的系统，并透过系统内相互协作，进而将汽车稳定的零延迟与云端智慧和周遭事物连接在一起。高通作为车用系统的领导者，投入超过20年的技术开发和市场导入。目前高通已是全球第一的车载资通讯厂商，也是先进车用资讯娱乐系统的领导厂商。高通在车用技术拥有独特的优势，能提供汽车朝向智慧化和连线平台演进的完整解决方案。我们已获得了20家领导品牌的汽车制造商采用 Snapdragon 汽车平台，接单总金额已超过了80亿美元。这足以展现高通在车载资通讯、车载资讯娱乐、车内连线等领域的领导地位。由于我们大量的研发投资，几乎所有主要汽车 OEM 厂商都已采用高通的产品，而这些研发投资正大规模地为产业带来显著的经济与技术成长。高通与多家企业组成的世界级生态系保持密切合作，致力为汽车产业的带来转变。我们非常认真地看待提供领先技术和可扩展平台的责任，同时对于联网汽车产业未来的商机充满了期待。高通一直致力于为汽车产业打造完整的平台，同时针对产业趋势满足消费者的需求。实现新一代汽车体验的关键在于借由 5G 将汽车连接至蜂巢式网络、基础设施和其他车辆。要达到这个目标，需要大量数位技术和解决方案。我们提供强大而且高效能的整合系统单晶片，以及具有可扩展性软体平台，让我们的客户可以跨层级、跨世代的重复使用。 如此一来，客户就不需要重新研发，并且允许系统用升级方式新增额外的效能空间，或只有在客户特别预定时才需为功能付费等等。我们的团队一直积极与全球汽车制造商合作，帮助他们为客户提供令人惊艳的汽车体验。为了实现这个愿景，新平台需要全新电子电机运算架构。直到最近，汽车架构都是由数十个 ECU， 也就是引擎控制单元和分散式系统组成，但这将限制系统架构的改变。我们现在所期待的汽车架构是将驱动以区域为基础的集中式运算系统。这个架构包括具备中央运算，以支援跨区域协助和硬体和软体的架构。高通致力于提供可扩展的硬体平台设计和通用的软体平台，以支援 OEM 厂商在所有层级汽车上的特定应用以及各种功能。集中式运算平台朝向集中控制最佳化区域发展的趋势，将使 OEM 厂商对他们的软体资产有更多的掌握。这不仅决定了汽车的运作、终端使用者的体验，更能体现一部汽车所代表的平台和 DNA。高通作为汽车系统领导供应商，我们透过提供专门打造的可扩展解决方案，消除客户在开发上面临的复杂性，进而加快产品商业化的时间。其中包括自动驾驶需要低延迟的 4G、5G、WiFi、蓝牙、精准定位、蜂巢式联网和云端的连接，还有高通 Snapdragon Ride 平台所提供的可扩展性 ADAS， 可带来快速、强稳的高效能驾驶辅助和安全系统。更不用提我们先进的资讯娱乐系统和座舱平台，可提供更高解析度的多萤幕显示、顶级音频、串流媒体娱乐和安全功能。高通推出基于 AI 的第三代高通 Snapdragon Automotive Cockpit Platform 汽车驾驶座系列平台以来，全球采用的 Tier 1汽车供应商正持续成长，持续获得包括富士康等顶尖 Tier 1供应商的采用。除此，高通也在今年初宣布推出下一代数位座舱解决方案，第四代高通 Snapdragon 汽车驾驶座系列平台。现在汽车制造商对于复杂性、成本考量和对中央运算整合的需求越来越高，汽车数位座舱系列正逐渐朝向区域电子电机运算架构发展。高通推出这个第四代全新平台，就是为了更进一步解决整合和最佳化多种应用所需的区域架构。同时，作为高效能运算、电脑视觉、AI 和多种感测器处理的中央枢纽，这个平台具备灵活的软体配置，可满足特定区域或领域的运算、效能和功能安全上的需求。随着自动驾驶产业彻底改变，高通与我们的伙伴和客户在重塑汽车及运输网络的未来上扮演一个关键的角色。5G、数位化、自动化、电子化以及定义汽车架构的全新软体，这将成为汽车产业转型的基础。高通具有独特的优势，未来也将持续和我们的伙伴皆有领先的车载资通讯、蜂巢式的车联网、数位座舱、汽车对云端、ADAS 以及自动驾驶技术的解决方案，共同推动汽车产业的发展。在这个行动连接发展快速的时代，我们非常兴奋能携手汽车产业的伙伴不断转型和演进。感谢各位的聆听，也再次感谢 Dytra 和金周刊的邀请。 希望大家能继续享受今天的活动，谢谢大家。
Hello, everybody. My name is David Oberman. I am very pleased to be with you today, and I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this very important e-mobility forum. INNOVIZ is one of Israel's startup companies. As you probably know, Israel is quite well known as the startup nation, with many thousands of startup companies. And INNOVIZ was set up in order to make LiDAR for autonomous driving. LiDAR is a sensor. It's one of the most important sensors which are used for ADAS and autonomous driving. LiDAR is similar, it's a little bit similar to radar, and it sends out pulses of laser light. INNOVIZ was established in 2016, and we succeeded in raising more than $250 million from some very good investors such as SoftBank, Samsung, SK, and many other big companies. Among our investors were also automotive companies such as Aptiv and Magna. And we have also forged partnerships with Tier 1 companies. Tier 1 companies are those companies who provide components and solutions for the automotive manufacturers. We have today actually over 300 employees already, and we are working very closely with companies such as Magna and BMW for mass production of cars, including our sensor. Now, I think one of the points of me presenting at this conference is to try to tell you what's unique about Israel, about INNOVIZ, and about the values of our company and the strengths of our company. And when I look for the unique aspects of our company, I think one of the most important points is that many of the founders and many of the workers came from an elite technology unit of the army, the Israeli army. It's called Unit 81. This name was secret until a few years ago, but now it's possible to publish the name. And this unit contains the best engineers in Israel. It contains people who must do the impossible yesterday. And the challenges that face this group of people are immense. And so these people are really unique people who can meet the biggest technological challenges that we have today and to make the impossible possible. So I think for us, one of the main milestones was signing an agreement with the BMW and Magna. And our LiDAR will be included in the BMW cars. We are working with 4 Tier 1 partners. You can see here Magna, Aptiv, Harman, and Hyrain from Beijing. Our product is very mature already. We are already approaching a D sample now, and we are ramping up so that we have high volume for mass production. Now, here you can see how the car uses different sensors in order to achieve autonomous driving and to achieve redundancy for autonomous driving. So INNOVIZ is providing the LiDAR. Another Israeli company called Mobileye, this is a company which was recently bought by Intel for $15 billion. And actually I worked there for 9 years. They are providing the cameras, and another company is providing radar. Together, these sensors are fused together by BMW, And BMW must make the driving decisions based on the inputs from the sensors. For example, to brake, to swerve, to slow down, and so on. Now, it's actually quite strange that INNOVIZ is based in Israel, because there is no history of automotive in Israel. There are no vehicle manufacturers or tier ones, and Israel had no prior experience in automotive. This whole field is very new for us over the last 10, 15 years, but actually mostly the last few years. But an ecosystem of more than 600 Israeli startup companies has sprung up. And this is even stranger when we consider that this field needs very, very harsh safety demands and safety and quality requirements. So this is really quite strange. But in Israel, we have a word for this. We call this chutzpah. And if you can understand the true meaning of chutzpah, then you can understand the heart of Israel's startup companies. Chutzpah is very difficult to translate, but in English we can say cheek, but it doesn't really explain the word. Chutzpah means really taking on an impossible task that you have no knowledge about and no experience with, and somehow manage to get the job done. Now, INNOVIZ has been working very closely, especially with Magna and BMW, for about 4 years. It was announced in early 2018. But huge challenges come with this partnership. To provide a sensor for autonomous driving means that we must meet the ISO 26262 standard, which is the functional safety standard. Now, it's very easy to say this, but actually to meet this standard takes many years of very hard work, many years of testing, many years of validation. And we also need to comply with the software standard, which is called ASPICE. And most of our work at INNOVIZ is actually put into meeting these standards. Our product is ASIL B, and it's part of the Tier 1's ASIL D offering. Here you can see on the right side some of the tests that we need to do. For example, we need to do vibration tests, water pressure tests, wind tests, EMC, salt spray, shock tests. We need to also test the product over many millions of miles of road testing. And we have BMW and Magna in our office all the time, auditing, pushing, making sure that we are meeting these very, very high standards. And believe me, it's not easy. We have to test the product at night in all weather conditions. We have to test the impact of direct sun and rain. Here you can see some images from our LiDAR. When you first see images from LiDAR, it looks a little bit strange. It's not like a photo because this is an image created by lasers. But here you can see the different colors denote different levels of reflectivity. And you can see that by using a LiDAR, we can see the whole scene very clearly by day and by night in 3 dimensions. And this is much more than a camera can do. A camera can only see 2 dimensions. And actually, the camera's ability at nighttime is very limited. So if we can pick up very clearly people, animals, cars, other objects on the road at nighttime and at daytime, then this is a very, very big and important element in autonomous driving. Now, we also have to make the product. We have to assemble the components. We have to test the components. We need to have assembly of the device. And then we need to do the testing. And all of this must be done with very expensive equipment. And it must be done quickly. We need to assemble the product, test the product, calibrate the product, And we need to make hundreds of thousands of units, and in the future, millions of units. And we need to do this very quickly in order to meet the needs of all the customers. Now, we mentioned consumer vehicles a lot. And of course, this is one of the major markets. This, for us, is the focus. But actually, there are other markets that are springing up. We also recently won a very big shuttle project with a leading tier one in Europe. And we are now focusing also on trucks, because trucks will need level 4 autonomous driving. And they travel, of course, very long distances, and they work around the clock. And they also need autonomous systems in order to relieve the drivers of their very tiresome and very expensive duties. Recently, there has also sprung up a different market of deliveries. In the West, it's Amazon, Nuro, companies like that. In China, companies such as Neolix, Meituan, JD.com, Alibaba Cainiao. And these companies are now, especially during the Corona period, but even now, they're developing vehicles for taking goods to the users and even delivering meals. And I believe that this area and segment will grow very quickly in the near future. Of course, drones need LiDARs in order to do mapping and in order to understand the territory beneath them. We need to consider the weight of the LiDAR, and our LiDAR is very light and very suitable for drones. And one more area which is developing very quickly is the area of heavy machinery. Here, there are slightly different needs. The producers of such heavy machinery need to meet very exacting industrial standards for vibrations, for shock, and so on. So just a few words about the technology. We are using 905 nanometer lasers, and we are using silicon detectors. This means that we can make the product at reasonable prices. We are using silicon MEMS mirrors, and we are using time of flight for the LiDAR technology. We send out laser beams, we receive the pulse back, and then we divide by the time of flight. In other words, the time that it takes for the laser to go and come back, and then we know exactly where every object is. Here is our product, INNOVIZ One. And on top of the product, we are also making the perception software. Perception software is also called computer vision. And we are a little bit unique in that we are providing not only the sensor, but also the perception software together with the sensor. And using this perception software, we can divide everything into categories. This is a car, this is a truck, this is a motorcycle, this is a human being, and so on. And by our experience in the market until now, we have realized that the market has a need for a second generation of LiDAR. This LiDAR can be configured in different ways for different customers. And we have managed to design a LiDAR which can bring down the cost of LiDAR very considerably. So this will be the next generation of LiDAR for mass production as the market for LiDAR grows. Here you can see the configuration, 140 degrees horizontal field of view. And in the center, we have an area which we call the region of interest, which is most important on the highway for recognizing other cars and obstacles on the road. So lastly, I would like to give you a few thoughts about cooperation with Taiwan. As I mentioned, we have many companies in the auto tech sector in Israel. On the other hand, Taiwan has huge corporates, some of the biggest and most successful companies in the world. And I believe that something is missing here in the equation. We need to cooperate together. We need to have more time together. We need to discuss cooperation. And I think that we can cooperate in many different areas, such as security, engineering, agriculture, and many other areas. We are now in the process of signing a distribution agreement with a Taiwanese company called Edom, and I really hope that we can see much more cooperation in the near future, and I am prepared to do my bit and to help any company that wants to work with Israeli companies. Thank you very much. 谢谢你们。